ladies here.
Great. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shadwick Nally, Chair of the Legislative Committee for the Colorado Forest Health Council, and today is November 15th, 2024, and I call this meeting to order. And Roberta, would you mind taking roll call?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Is Samantha Albert here?
Present. Good morning, all.
Katie McGrath Novak,
Present. Good morning.
Pat Dorsey,
Here.
Christina Burry.
Present.
We have Commissioner Jody Shadwick McNally.
Here.
Mark Morgan,
Present.
Julie Stencil,
Good morning.
Selwyn White Skunk, Commissioner Veronica.
I think we can remove former council Vice President White Skunk. He's not a member of the council anymore, so let's move him off the list. Thank you.
Commissioner Veronica Medina, and Allison Lurch.
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, it sounds like we have quorum, so thank you all for being here today and happy Friday. So let's move on to the next agenda item, and let's move on to approval of the minutes. I think we have two sets, correct? Or just the one?
It looks like just the one from the last
Okay.
meeting, November 1st.
I don't have it in front of me. I just want to make sure because I think last time we had that. So let's go ahead and anybody have any additions, changes, or concerns about the minutes that were presented? Okay, I welcome a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay, great. Those are approved. Thank you so much. So let's move on to our next agenda item, which first, let me just say, I just wanted to thank everyone, especially Courtney and Roberta and Allison and all the presenters who put in so much time and efforts for our meeting. And I just, it was great presentations, and I just want to thank everyone for their work. And I thought it was really productive, some good conversations. I found them very uplifting, and I just wanted to say, well done. Thank you so much for all that you do. And just wanted to say, well done. So I just hope that you all felt the same. So anybody would like to comment on that?
It might be good to do a brief, I'm trying to go back in time and recall the presentations. So I know that, let's see, there was the one with kind of partnership, collaborative efforts. I know State Forest Service.
Yeah, we're going to do that in just a minute
Okay,
with that.
cool.
Doc.
Okay.
It was attached, so yeah, we're going to do that in just a minute. So thank you though, not to cut you off, Christina, but yes, we're going to do that and kind of just revisit all of that because we've had some good conversations. But first, I was hoping, and I know I'm kind of throwing you a curveball. I woke up at 4 a.m. and thought maybe we should do this first. Is there anyone can pull up the timeline of our calendar of our of where we're at?
Yeah, let's, Roberta, do you have that handy or do you need me to pull that up?
Which document exactly are we looking for?
It's
The
our
timeline.
The
calendar.
Okay, the calendar. Yeah. Yes. And we're looking back in time? Or do
Yeah, just pull the whole, yeah, the one that's back in time, the whole calendar.
you want me to
like-
share my screen?
Yeah, would you mind? Thank you.
Sure. Let me know if this is the right calendar.
I'm sorry, I should have sent you all an email this morning, but it's always amazing to me when I check my phone how I end up working so much before my meetings. So so let's just go back. I think we started kind of looking at, let's go up to December.
December next month.
This month. Oh yeah, next month, this month and next month. Yeah. So you see on the 13th, we have deliberation, and then we don't have any meetings for the rest of November. And then if you look up in November, we can go down. This is where we're at today. And deliberation and find out which ones have moved forward, which we kind of know already. And so we have today, and then let's look at December, we have that day. And then I think in January, we have 2 more days. So I just want to say we have 4 meetings to have this conversation, but by February, we have to come up with some recommendations. So I didn't want to make everyone feel like we have to come to some solid thing today. Today is just kind of level setting, having a conversation, reviewing back. And so we only have really 2 meetings. We have this one, I think. We don't have one the rest of November, and then we have the one in December. So Allison, you want to go ahead and comment on that? Thanks.
Yeah, I just, for the calendar, we'll be most likely having our Q1 full council meeting on February 6th. So we'll update this calendar and you'll see that in your own inboxes very soon.
Definitely to have this ready for the full council meeting. So we definitely have to have this done. Thank you for that. Thanks for reminding me of that. So, and welcome, Commissioner Medina. Thank you for joining us today. So I just wanted to kind of give you all kind of that level setting that today is just kind of comfortable, open conversation. And, but then ones in December will probably be pretty important to be there in the 13th. So, okay, so saying that, if we can now share that document that we all sent that had some of the ideas from the presentations and all of our comments. So we can all kind of look at the same. Can you do that, Roberta? I'm sorry, I should have just kind of warned you.
Yeah, do you want me to put the link in the chat so everyone can pull it up, or do you want me to share my screen?
If you could share, then we can all see it. But and yes, in the chat too would be great. Okay.
Can you see that? Or bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And sorry, I'm just going to have to introduce myself here. It was a long day meeting, so if I have to stop for a second, but let's go through these presentations. So our first presentation, the ideas from the DNR presentation, and here's some of our notes. So, and that was the kind of overall kind of thoughts from DNR. So I don't know if you've gotten to see that and see have any questions or thoughts about that, and I appreciate all the minutes from that. What do you guys, any thoughts about that presentation, or that helps the notes help refresh your memory about that? Was that? And now let's go on to
on that one, Jody. That was the one I saw, Wildfire Ready Watersheds in that.
Yeah,
that's one where I think that I don't know, Allie, you may know where that's at in terms of funding, but I know that there was like the initial round of funding for the plans, like for the planning effort, but I don't know what the status of the funding is for implementation. And that could go towards forest health projects associated with watershed protection. So that may be one to flag for, like it's an existing successful program. And I just don't know what the status of funding is for implementation dollars.
That's great. And just so, because I'm kind of reading and looking, if you could push the raise your hand button, then I know that you're wanting to talk, and then I can, that's right. But while we're still, don't change the screen, but can we go ahead and look at that? There's a list that we started. If we can send that list out of ideas that started, I think that's a separate list, right? That ideas that we already put over there. Wildfire ready watersheds was ready. So if we put that in the chat. So that was one idea. I think was what I suggested. So, so let's go to September. And then Julie also had a really good comment about roadblocks for things. So in September, we talked about the biomass studies. So just kind of look through that anyway. And Allison, can you share with me about that study that they said they were going to try and hurry up and try to get the, they were going to, James Lucero brought up, there's a biomass study that you're all reviewing again and trying to get the analysis back quicker. Can you share about that quick?
Christina, could you share about that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it's close to being complete or is complete. I can get back with you all about that study.
Okay, and I know ours will be out probably by the end of the year or January, and I'll be sure to send that to everyone, the final report. If you haven't signed up, there is a newsletter from the biomass study, and that I think you're welcome to join in on that newsletter if you're interested. So you can send me an email, I can connect you and ask them to put you on the list for email. There's a nice newsletter. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, from the industry side of things, the biomass studies and direction on biomass are extremely interesting and critical to the industry, because how people want to handle biomass and how much they think they need to remove is going to be probably, if not one of the biggest financial driver for the cost of these projects. So how you're going to handle that and how you're going to manage it is going to be critical interest to the industry side of things. So it's hard to come up with policy for these other programs till we have that piece of the puzzle, I guess would be my comment. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, and that's important. Good point. Thank you, Mark. You always bring some good points. Commissioner Medina and then Samantha.
Good morning, everybody. Just a quick question on that study. Can you remind me what is the scope of the study? Like, is it all of the Colorado? Is it certain areas of Colorado for that biomass study? I don't recall. So
it is Colorado focused.
And Larimer County, the one that we presented on was Larimer County focused, but we had an outside consultant. We had a $200,000 grant from DOLA, and that came to kind of look at options for us and looking at industry, biochar, partnerships, the whole gamut. We're also sharing some information and data between Boulder County and us, because they're doing not a woody biomass, but a biomass in general. So they're also looking at food waste and things, but they're part of that is also the woody biomass. So it's a little bit different study, but we are sharing some data. So, and that will be, I just thought you guys might be interested since we've had kind of this outside person come in. It should be done. We're really excited because they're saying we'll have a menu of options that we can actually implement. It's not just going to be a plan. It's going to be something we can actually implement. And there'll be a menu of options from expensive to not expensive. So Samantha, thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. It's more of a kind of high level question as we're looking at these ideas. I know that Director Gibbs sent over the budget forecast from a couple of weeks ago, kind of the plans for the coming legislative session year. When we're looking at these ideas, is the recommendation that we're avoiding, like maybe not avoiding, are we allowed to have funding associated with our recommendations, or where are we at with that, I guess is my big question on these.
So that's a good question. We know that these are for 2026, and because we already had 2025, already done. But this is I'm just speaking as an individual here. I figure if we avoid solutions just because they have price tags, then we're not really providing. I think we should always provide what we think is really going to make an impact, but also be thoughtful about if there's a big fiscal note. But if it's a return on investment, or if there's, especially with this bit of woody biomass, we've heard, and this is one of our priorities, voted on priorities as a Ford House Council, if you think about that list of the top priorities, even though it didn't rank as high, but we still seem to keep talking about it because everyone seems to have challenges. So I think in my mind, if we say, oh, well, we only have to look at things that don't cost money, that kind of limits what we're talking about, because I think all of this is going to eventually have some kind of cost. But I think we should also focus on the reality that there are some things we might just need to go back and see how we can look at barriers and challenges and what we can do to address that. That's just I think if we just worry about price tags, then we aren't really having the full, robust, comprehensive discussion that we have. But I'm just speaking as an individual. Mr. Morgan.
I think the other half of that is that you can talk about things that cost money and you can look at programs that do. Then at the same time, we should be looking at the funding source to pay for those. So there's a variety of ways to go about funding things. So if you bring the money with the suggestion or the project, I think they should come as a package maybe. If you've got something that desperately needs to be done and we're going to try to promote a way to do it, then let's promote a way to pay for it as well.
Great point, Mr. Morgan. Thank you. Think that question, Samantha. I think that's a really great comment. And I don't think we've ever had any guidance from them to say, hey, don't consider anything. I think I don't know, Allison, I think we're just trying to have the conversations and discuss things, but I think also we kind of focus on shared stewardship to show that we're going to need to partner. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, Allison.
Yeah, I would love to comment on this. Absolutely. Well, and of course, in our more tighter budget years, we should be thinking more fiscally minded. At the same time, we know that programs and initiatives will and may require funding associated with them. So I don't think we should, we haven't heard from the top to not to only focus on things without a fiscal note. And at the same time, I think we should just be mindful of how we can leverage funding, as Mark and Commissioner just mentioned as well, and maybe think a little bit broader on not just a single funding source. If there is a program that needs or an initiative that might need a lot of funding.
Thank you, Allison. Great point. Julie.
I cannot recall. Refresh me, someone. when we route up the suggestions, I mean, did we put context as to the cost of not doing it? Like, so for example, if some of what we ultimately propose really reduces risk, there's a cost to not doing things as well. And I think, to the extent as we're sending up those ideas, we can give a little bit of a risk analysis to support the ask on the cost or why bringing the funding along makes sense. That tends to go a long way with folks when they're trying to understand, why would I do this? Dollars, right? Sometimes the cost of not taking an action is far greater than the cost associated with taking it.
That's a great point, Julie. And I don't think we've ever done that. And I'm not sure. I think that's maybe a good thing for us to do especially if we present in front of the Wildfire Matters and have that data for the legislators, and also for us when we're out talking to folks, right? In general, as when we're talking to people in our community and our sector circles here, that we try not to have these barriers, but just to share the cost of not doing these things, which we, Director Gibbs is and Director Holmes are very vocal about. So I'm not sure, Allison, is there, I mean, I'm only thinking about this because this has kind of been the theme the last few months with the cap and all these things at the state legislature is, does staff have capacity that they could pull this together, or maybe Colorado State Forest Service, or who would have some of this data that wouldn't be a big lift? And Mr. Morgan, I see your hand raised.
There was a great deal of this kind of work done going back probably 20 years at CSU, and Dr. Dennis Lynch did a lot of work on that, what wildfires costs, suppression costs were, overall cost of the community. That has been looked at before from the fire side, and there should be a fair amount of data available there that some of it may be a little bit aged, but I don't know exactly where that material would be housed. I used to have some of it at one time, but there has already been a fair amount of work done there through the State Forest Service and through CSU. And I'm not an archivist, but somebody ought to know where that's at.
Well, and I think that's a good point, Mr. Moran. There's been a lot of work done. We don't need to recreate the wheel. I'm just figuring it still takes somebody some time to gather all of this and put it in together. So great point, though. And if you want to email kind of that name and that study, then we can kind of, you can always use that historical context that we've been talking about this for 20 years already. I think that would be great to have that too, to kind of show. And Christina, I figured you had some ideas about this. So would you like to share with that?
Yeah, there's a few things. So there is a recent, I'll put this in the chat just so people can have frame of reference, but the most recent statistic was a 13-to-1 cost benefit or return on investment. So for every $1 spent proactively, it saves $13 on the reactive side. This was put forth by, I think, some federal agencies, as well as I think some
Headwaters Economics did some too.
No, it is different than the Headwaters Economics has done significant work, but this was the highest. This is the first time I've seen 13-to-1. Typically, I think the number we've used is like 5-to-1 return on investment, but this was the first time where, and it was 2024. I mean, this was a recent thing. So I'll put that information in the chat. However, in addition to that, water utilities like Denver Water, I remember doing a return on investment study specific for water. And I think, so there are like more specific return on investment studies that have been done for water utilities. And I think Larimer County and like the Northern Front Range. So there's some numbers out there. It's just like you said, Commissioner, it's being able to pull those things together into some talking points. So certainly I think that would be valuable. I'm happy to help with that effort because I focused a lot of my time at Denver Water on return on investment. So I'm happy to help with that however I can. But I'll put stuff in the chat for folks. Thanks.
That's great. And before I go to you, Allison, I think that's the number I've been using only because I think Director McCombs had given it to me. And so I've been out sharing that with lots of folks and it just blows people away. So I think this is not just, I'm going to get you just a second, Allison, but when we're having this discussion, but I remember I said, what do we need more information on in the agenda? And so this is great. If we can go ahead and maybe someone can start that list off to the side as I'm sharing. We put this more information so I don't want to lose that. So I had said, what information does the committee need? And this is one that I think we want some more information on that. But I don't know, Allison, I'm always sensitive that when we ask for information, to make sure we're not asking something a heavy lift for staff to do, but I think it's all there. But if Christina's willing, and I know you're an expert on a lot of these water issues too, Christina. So I think that's a great point. So Allison, what would you like to share?
I was just going to answer. I think staff can work, and Christina, if you have time as well, to pull together some of these like incredible statistical resources that we have, and we can wrap something together and provide it to our next legislative committee meeting, and maybe just have it as and it can be a growing list as well, right? See if we can find more information and get deeper.
I think that's a great plan. You know, we've already started a list. I see Ms. Morgan, be right to with you. We have, as a county commissioners, when we have the legislature, they just roll their eyes and we say unfunded mandates, right? And we have a running list now, and it's 6 to 7 million a year that we don't have funding for. And so a list grows. And now we're going to show also, take them on a tour and show some of the policies, what thoughtful policies, well-intentioned, but unintended consequences. And we're going to show them where actually people are actually getting hurt. So it's just kind of something I think it's important not to say, hey, this is what you're doing, but just to be mindful of the unintended consequences, because they always have the best intentions, but there are always sometimes unintended consequences. Mr. Morgan, thanks for raising your hand.
Yes, I think there's been a lot of work done from the water side of this, what the consequences are, and from the wildfire cost of inaction. But I also think there's a great deal of secondary cost clear down through the county and the local citizens and stuff. There's a lot of cost borne from these problems and outbreaks that don't seem to get captured in some of these studies. The big players can afford to generate this information, like Denver Water and everything, and they have some excellent material that I have read through. And but there's a great deal of smaller costs to small counties and individuals, and it's little things that they've got to replace fence, or they've got pasture problems, or they're moving, but it's a real financial impact. And I don't know of anybody out there right now that is got any kind of a number or a measure of that, but I think it's much larger than you think it is. Impact local people in the community, just small things. It's really, people come in and buy products from me all the time that they had to replace because of a fire or a flood from a fire or whatever. And I don't think that gets captured. I don't know how to suggest to capture it, but I think you would find it to be quite large. And I see a lot of small counties come in and municipalities, and they need products or they need services and stuff that are generated by this. And a lot of it's taken care of. It's not done through a program. There's no funding source. It really is out of pocket to them.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think that's a great, and I don't know how we capture that. I know we have some of that in Larimer County because post-fire work, the watershed, the post-fire flooding and that work, and some of the things that we've had to rebuild the road and things from I mean, there's just all those numbers, and I don't know who all has that, but I know we're still waiting for reimbursements from 10 years ago, actually 12 years ago, almost. So I just, from FEMA, like $8 million, no small chunk of change. So, and I know counties, not all counties have been saving up natural disaster wildfire kind of piggy bank. So you're right. There is no designated funding for that. It's kind of looking for grants and things. I see your hand again, Mark.
I was just going to say, it isn't even through funding or even through the counties. There's a huge impact on a lot of individuals, and these people are fairly self-sufficient and whatever, but they take it on the chin. I don't know if there's a way to survey that or whatever, but it is a huge cost, and it is a huge cost for not acting on things. And there's nobody out there keeping score on the money that I'm talking about, I guess, that I know of right now.
Well, that sounds like another list of things for our list of more information. And Pat Dorsey, thank you for sharing the U.S. Chamber assets documents. And I'm wondering, Samantha, is there a tourism or recreation loss too as well? So I'm just curious if there's any data with that, if any of that, if your area has some of those consequences. That would be great. Okay, so good discussion. This is what I was hoping for. So let's move on to the next date and time topic that we had gone over in October. We had the presentations from the water plan. Oh, Pat, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I did have something to say, but I raised my hand at the wrong time. I was getting back to Mark Morgan's point about the small things that people do and how they have a cumulative effect. I know that Colorado has an income tax deduction for wildfire mitigation. Is there an opportunity to somehow quantify everything that's being done? And I see in here, you know, one of the questions is about match for grants. We could be using homeowners' private efforts to get, for example, everybody who does home mitigation in Larimer County could be used by the county to secure a federal grant or something like that. Is there an opportunity there that, you know, is a low risk, maybe low cost, high reward kind of opportunity?
That's a great point. Let's put that on the list of more information for what we have questions about. How does that sound? Unless Allison or Christina or someone wants to comment on that. And I'm sorry, Mr. Hand, Pat.
All I would say is let's put it on the list.
Let's put it on the list. And I'm sorry, I just thought I figured we had some more questions after all these. So we have the water master plan. We had the watersheds and wildfire, watershed fire nexus. Just to let you know, Larimer County we had a big discussion with the Plan Commission. The commissioners are making a few more changes, and then we're getting ready to approve that. So it's getting a lot of from our water providers and some of our watershed coalitions who are involved with mitigation work have really been excited about this because there is the focus on watershed protections and a priority for that. So just wanted to share that. And I thought the Upper Yampa Water Conservancy District provided some really powerful pictures and points about the importance of that. So does anyone have anything that they want more information from that or want, and then this is just a list. We already have the list of ideas, which we can show here in a minute, but any other questions or information you need from that. And I think that's also from questions from this also roll back up to the questions we had that Christina was going to talk about the water and all of that. I think that kind of is connected to that for more information. And Christina, would you believe that it's something you could pull in about the importance of the watersheds and the cost?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, you're laughing. We're making a long list. So then we'll move. Go ahead.
Just throw a little more on Christina and tell her to run faster.
Luckily, I have good staff.
Well, we'll go back and look at the list and make sure we have realistic, things, because we do have, it is a short timeline. Okay, so no other questions, comments about the watershed nexus post-fire? Okay, so let's go on to the 18th. We had a discussion on the more watersheds. We had the Colorado Springs, and Pat brought up some good points. One thing that stuck out for me that I've been using from that meeting, and this is something that I've been having conversations with, and I sometimes don't always comment as much as I have, but it's just really stuck with me, is when we've been having a conversation even last week as commissioners, we all met kind of as commissioner associations for the whole state, is we're afraid that any funding that we cut now for short term, for the little things that we cut now, could have long time consequences in the future. And so making sure we're thinking about that, these little things that we're doing, our little programs, have long lasting impacts and a lot of return on investment. And so from that presentation, I don't know if you remember, they said they had the 2 U.S. Forest Service backcountry volunteers or seasonal workers. They had the 2 of them had stopped 30 unattended fires. To me, that stuck in my brain and really impacted my thought process about that. Seemed like that's such a small amount of funding and investment for a monumental, in my opinion, impact. So I wanted to kind of maybe ask some information about that. And I wanted to go back and watch that presentation. Are there other districts, areas, or Forest Service programs? And I know that's their program, but I mean, I'm just wondering about that kind of impact, or having folks back there looking for unattended fire. So just, that was something I had information, a concern about, and a question. Pat.
Yeah, and this question goes to DNR and a few other people that were at the Connecting Colorado event. Is there an opportunity to connect some of this stuff to the Colorado Outdoor Strategy? I know this was one of the things that was really popular that came out of those meetings. I think there's some real potential there.
Thank you, Pat. Great. Thanks for bringing that into context. Allison.
Yeah, thank you, Pat, for bringing that up. And I absolutely think there's going to be connections between the outdoors strategy and all of this. And so I think we should keep it as, do you, at least for this committee, do we need, I mean, we had an incredible presentation at our Q4 meeting from Julie and Jody Kennedy, but do we need any more information on that to help with discussion if we want to add that into our deliberation meetings?
I don't know. I think I need to go back and watch that again. And also because we had a great presentation. I just don't know how much that costs for those two people. I don't know what the cost of, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about what is the cost of having those two people or something similar. I'm just focusing on that. But, you know, how much does it cost for those two seasonal people? I'm sure it's not over $100,000. I'm just knowing that it's, you know, seasonal workers, I would love to pay them triple, but I'm just curious, just kind of when we talk about the cost of not doing something, you know, the cost of having something like that and the cost of having this, you know, but then it goes back to that, it's beneficial for or not for, but I know I'm saying, I'm just saying, and there's a cost to not having those people back. So just curious about that. And I know that that was something that was mentioned at the Colorado State Forest Service annual meeting, was the concerns about, I think someone brought up a question. Christina, you were there. Remember that there was a question about the cost of the cuts in that area. Do you remember that question?
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of uncertainty right now with the U.S. Forest Service budget. So I don't have any, yes, I remember the question, and I think that it will primarily be based on like local communities, water utilities want to pay the U.S. Forest Service for these things. It's just what's unclear is whether the U.S. Forest Service will actually do those agreements and move forward with them and support them. We just don't know at this time.
Thank you for that. Mr. Morgan, I don't know if you had your hand raised, but then I see Julie has her hand raised. So did you have your hand raised or were you just nodding, Mr. Morgan?
About the U.S. Forest Service, I think they are facing some serious challenges around here on their funding stream, some real serious ones, and they're having to make some changes. And what I've generally found in the past is this has a trickle down effect, good or bad. But I think there will be one, and I think that we need to look to do things right now that we can be sure of the funding sources for, because I think a lot of these programs are going to vary, and I literally don't have a prediction here or whatever. I just think that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. I think some programs will very much go forward, and I hope that they are funded by merit. And I think some things are probably going to go away, and we have to be. A take-home lesson that I got in 9th grade civics class was economics is the science of distributing limited resources over unlimited wants. And your limited wants has to be the most beneficial and the most powerful and deserving. And if we believe in what we're doing, then we have to be the best salesman, because I think the resources may be less, but we need to be the ones that deliver value for what we're asking for. So I think uncertainty will be the name of the game here for a little while.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. I appreciate that. Julie, thank you for your patience. Thanks for raising your hand.
Yeah, no worries. I think Mark just took us full circle, right? The cost of not doing things. What is the return on the investment, and why that would take priority perhaps over something else. And so, as I think about the fact that maybe the Forest Service is looking at cuts, etc., I think that makes now being the time to leverage all of the things that the council has been talking about collaboratives and partnerships and all the things. If you know that the funding's likely to get cut, what steps are being taken right now to ensure that there's ways to plug those holes? Whether it's through educational non-paid internship opportunities, or what other things could happen to keep bodies where bodies are needed. So I just glad people are thinking ahead to what could potentially be happening, and hope that all of those relationships that are being built will help backstop that.
Great point. Thank you. Allison.
Thank you, Mark and Julie. Sorry, I was on mute for a second, for your comments, and really, yes, bringing it full circle. And I think that we'll just guide this, into our conversation about the last presentations about shared stewardship, but it really, and bringing up the outdoor strategy was so important. And one of the things with shared stewardship is it's not just for our forests, it's for our recreation, water, and it's, the suite of our natural resource needs, and how we think and how we act. And so I just think whatever happens in the next year or so, the strength of, as Mark said, the strength of our collaboratives, but the strengths of really breaking down silos, truly, like at a time where we have to think of the mindset of strategic work is going to be the most important work, because if we have less funding, we have to be more strategic with what we do regardless. So the collaborative work that's been in place, the plans that have been put forth, to identify the most strategic places to get the greatest return on investment, right, will be really the North Star we all have to live by.
Thank you, Allison. Great point. So I think that goes back to, like you said, full circle and more information. So I think, again, it's just be interested to know how much those seasonal. So if we can see if there's unpaid internships, or there is, if industry wants to help pay for internship, sponsor an internship, I think that would be really important. So let's move on, because we're almost out of time. This has been a great conversation. Thank you all for your input. This has been fantastic. Our last presentation was about the shared stewardship presentation, and it was fantastic. And I think that kind of full circles bring all of this in together, because you think at every presentation we had this year has a shared stewardship element. It wasn't just one person or one entity or an agency. And so, Allison, you kind of helped facilitate that panel. What did you hope were the biggest takeaways from that, or what you hope that we took as the biggest takeaways?
Thanks, Commissioner. So I curated the panel to have a county perspective, a nonprofit perspective, and then a state perspective, because I knew there would be connectivity between all, but then of course equal, different ways of working through how to, do work cross-boundary and all of that. And I think what I really wanted to take on is that the relation, what we heard through all of this is relationships are very important, and trust to be able to do this work cross-boundary, and to really do the work in the places that need it the most. And so like we heard from Scott about how they're using pods, potential operational delineations, I believe, how Everett talked about the Good Neighbor Authority. And, I'm looking at you, Christina, as, Colorado is a model for the entire country on how the state can work across, not just on non-federal lands to do incredibly effective work. And we have an incredible story about that this year, the Wellington Fire, right there, right next to a community where the right work was done at the right time. And a fire did get into that, project and slowed and stopped the fire. So just that good, we have these programs in place already that could support this cross-boundary work that we know is essential. And then what I really hope to get from Jonathan and the Arkansas River Watershed Collaborative, and I don't think he dived in as much as I wanted to, but to talk about other ways that we work, that non-federal agencies can work on federal land. And that was that stewardship contracting, and that was how ARWIC was able to help facilitate, a few hundred acres in a headwaters project that was really important for water users, downstream municipalities, and all of that. So, what I will just to round that out, it's just that we have programs in place that we need to support, and we need to, especially with the possibility that we have fewer federal resources, then how can we use these programs and possibilities to continue to do good work where we need it the most?
Great comments, Allison. Really spot on. So I think for me, I would like to have some more information from Jonathan about drilling down where you had talked about those shared stewardship contracts on the federal land. And then I guess, yeah, it was really well said, Allie. Pretty much, I'm going to go back and record what you just said and make that a narrative for when I come speak in February for us to talk about, because I think that's the theme. We understand we're going to have limited resources, but we need to shore up and protect what we have. But also we need to really tell the story of the cost of not doing something. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you all. But also I think the Everett talk about, I think I'd like to more information and specifically call out and share with everyone the Good Neighbor Authority that we just celebrated and with the governor and Director Gibbs and all that. I think we should spell out the points about how this is the only one in the country. And also I think it would be great. And we've been talking about the Rocky Mountain Restorative Institute, but I think we also need to just put that on the list of more information and spell out why that is such an important area and the points of why that is something that maybe we haven't highlighted or focused on too, that's happening. So I just wanted to kind of put that on the list too. Okay, so that's all of our presentations. Can we bring up the list that you guys have been keeping?
Which list?
One with all the questions. Thank you, Roberta. I'm sorry I wasn't more clear.
Let me stop sharing for a second.
Commissioner, do you know if Courtney sent this to you before this meeting also? I'm having trouble finding the list. I'm really sorry.
No, I just said the list that we did today, that we've all the questions of just the today. I have that other list, but I don't think we'll have time to look at that today. I just wanted to look at the list of all the information and questions that we took today from, you guys have been taking notes on more information, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'll tell you what, in the interest of time, how about we send that out with, before the next meeting, all the information so we can have that. So the interest of time. So I won't put you on the spot. And then we can have that for next time because we have like 10 minutes. And then I'll have us update the questions because some of these things we've already, oh, there it is. We've already had some lists like the Wildfire Ready Watershed Program, all that. It's already been on kind of the list that we've been keeping because that list hasn't gotten very robust because I think everyone wasn't quite there, but I just also wanted to capture things right after the meeting. So let's send this out and everyone can kind of look at that for the next meeting. And also, is there but staff need to kind of be able to bring some of this information back for the next meeting. So I was wondering, looking at this list, it's a lot. I don't think it all has to be ready for the next in 2 weeks, but we're not meeting in 2 weeks. It'll be about a month. So what are your thoughts? There's some things we could get. Should we just say what we can get and not to have high expectations to get it all, but what we could get for more information, like Christina was able to bring together. Allison, you're going to get some more of the drilling down on the Arkansas program and some of that. What are your thoughts, folks? Christina.
Yeah, I'm happy to compile the like return on investment stuff. Are we creating, is this like for talking points essentially? Like the more information is just it's probably both, but I'm asking the group, like,
right.
Is it to help inform our decision making for this group and or talking points for when we interact with Wildfire Matters Review Committee and others?
I think it's both, because I think it's also, for me, I think it's also a good reminder for all of us about, we've been talking about doing this, but I think it might be good for us to have like 13-1 and 13-1 and all those things, I think it'd be good for us all to have the information for us to think about if we're afraid to think of things. So let's just say, I think it's Allison, you talked about maybe the GNA and the Arkansas and some of that. And Pat, maybe you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about the Rocky Mountain Restorative Institute maybe next meeting. Would that be okay? I don't know, I don't see her. Is she the thumbs up on that?
I'm sorry, I forgot with the shared screen, you couldn't see me. Yes, I'd be happy to.
That would be great. Okay, so I think there's a lot there. I don't think the whole list has to come back with information. I think we'll have more than enough with what we just discussed to kind of come back. And maybe we can send out the information before the meeting, so we're not kind of looking at it. But yeah, I think this would be really important conversations. And this feels like we're really being thoughtful and drilling down on some like return on investment. I think this has really been a really great full circle discussion as we talked about. So let's pause there and move on to the next thing, because I want to make sure we can get to this next item. And as always, we can always add more things. So discussion of integrating the Colorado Forest Health Council priorities in the legislative into our meetings, and kind of follow up on that question. And Allison had presented and had this question, and we all thought maybe we can integrate this into our already meeting time, since we all are, you guys have been meeting every 2 weeks, and I'm always just so impressed that we're here and keep doing the work and the conversation. And I have to tell you my heartfelt gratitude, because without all of you and your expertise, we wouldn't be able to move this committee and have these conversations and move these items. So you are all, every single one of you, I value your input and your voice. It's so critical. So I think these are a good place to have that. And so we have those, is it 5 or 6, Allison, priorities?
It's I think it's 6, and I can pull it up right now if you would like to. Can I share my screen just real quick?
Yep, that would be great.
Wonderful. I'm gonna just zoom in. I know this is there we go. 6.
So I feel like there are things that we've already been doing a lot, like the wooded biomass, workforce development, and forest health and climate, because we've been, been pushing the vapor pressure deficit, and we're looking at some of those things. So and the strategy, so I don't know, Allison, and were you thinking that we would take some and leveraging resources would take some? Because I was thinking those 3 we're already doing, but and it's not like we won't be I think all of these we've had talks about, so it's not like we won't be talking, but I don't know. Those were the three, and I'm just doing this in interest of time. But what do you all think about that? And it doesn't have to make a final decision today. I just thought we should start the conversation and we can have it next time. So what's people's thoughts on, because we already kind of are doing this because we've been having discussions, but just to make sure that, as I'm understanding, that we're kind of really focusing on those three in our committees. Julie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, right? It seems like that's what we should be aligning with and should. So short answer, yes, I think it makes sense. When you were asking about the priorities, and I have on my separate screen the Forest Health Council's website, it might be great somewhere to put these there. I'm not seeing them, so if they're there, just a thought to sort of so the outside world also understands what are those current priorities.
Thank you, Julie. Mr. Morgan.
From the industry side of things, we oftentimes different management work on the ground. There are huge differences in the cost of accomplishing this work. Some of it is just effective, but maybe not as aesthetically pleasing. And it seems like we're trying to do priorities without knowing the price tag of the cost to work on the ground. And so sometimes as you people make suggestions, I think it would be helpful if you knew or collected the data from previous contracts of what different types of treatments cost, which would allow you to make choices as to how you want to spend your dollars, which ones. I feel like we're almost working from too high a level we're supposed to be, but when you go down to shop for a service or whatever, you have to know what the different costs are of the different components of the services you're shopping for. And I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know how many people in this group have a good handle on what different services cost so that they could be advocates one way or another or make intelligent decisions on what they're advocating for. I don't know if that exists anywhere, or many of you have paid for different management activities. Some kind of a compilation of what the different kind of activities cost might help guide you in what you're trying to do for the limited sources that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. All right, we're almost out of time. I'm not saying we make a decision today, but I wanted to kind of start to have this discussion. Allison, you didn't want us to have a decision today, right? We could kind of make this in December at our meeting.
Absolutely. And I just wanted everyone in this committee just to be thinking about this, since we have to make our decisions and our formal meetings. And the Leveraging Resources Committee only meets once a month, so they have their December meeting. And I think we'll meet one more time before the next Leveraging Resources Committee meeting.
Sounds great. Okay. I have other on there. Any other burning questions or desires or comments before we adjourn? I hope Julie.
Just a thought, given that we've got new members on the larger council, I don't know if there are folks who are not currently engaged on either subcommittee that maybe there needs to be a communication out to let them understand there's opportunities to plug in and help, just to add voices and and worker bees to the process. So I just didn't know if that had already occurred.
Do you mind if I respond quickly, Commissioner?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please. Allison.
Yeah, after that, I was talking about that with Courtney after last meeting, and I think she included it in the follow-up email, but I wanted to make that a little bit of stronger message to everyone to send an invitation, for others to join. So I think we'll send that out again, Julie, and I appreciate that.
Great. Well, I am, after this meeting, I'm going on to NOCO Places 2050, which is the sharing stewardship management across from the Wyoming border down to Jefferson County. And it's a interesting intersection here. And then we have the Fire Commission Subcommittee with the Fort South Council. So just so you know, I'm continuing these conversations today. And so thank you all. I think this was a very valuable conversation, and we'll look forward to seeing you all in December. Happy Thanksgiving, and however you celebrate, I hope you're with the folks and family and friends that you love, and that you take some time to recharge and do the things that bring you joy. So I wish you all the best and a happy holiday season, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I would so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. There's been a first and a second. Any deliberation or any objection? If all those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed? Awesome. Happy Friday. Take care, everybody. We are adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.